ever find me, 'cause I'm down on my knees, begging. Please.
The voice. Well, as people across America get ready to vote, we bring you a view of the country you can only see if you board a Greyhound bus. Singer-songwriter Doug Levitt recently did just that. The result? The Greyhound Diaries. And Doug joins us now from New York. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Betty. Thanks.
Sure. You know, the first time you toured the country by bus just to get a grasp on what people were thinking all across the country was during the 2004 presidential election. Why do it again, and why this time?
Well, I set out initially because I sort of saw that there was a real gap between sort of the reality that we see on TV, which as we know is sort of anything but, and that which people experience, those who are struggling. And I felt like as an artist that what I could do is maybe help, you know, one person's version of sort of trying to bridge that narrative gap. And of course, Greyhound is a great cross-section of Americans. It's sort of like a traveling crossroads. So you can really learn a great deal about people, and a lot of whom are struggling right now.
Let's talk about some of the struggles out there, because you spent 240 hours on buses talking to Americans, many of them in the middle of the night, Americans who struggle just to get by. As we talk so much about this election, Doug, a lot of people say, you know, it's all about Iraq, it's all about the economy, it's all about illegal immigration. What are the people that you've spoken with saying this election is really about? What's on their minds as they go to the polls?
Well, I think it's worth noting, Betty, that a lot of the people that I spoke to aren't necessarily in the political system. You know, this election, even if we have great turnout, over 100 million eligible voters will be nowhere near the final tally or the voting
So are
booth.
they turned off, the most people that you spoke with? Are they just simply turned off by the whole political process?
I don't know if it's turned off. I think a lot of people for whom daily life is triage. Politics is a world away. It's sort of a spectator sport of, by, and for other folks. And you know, the political parties don't necessarily go after people's votes or try to enfranchise them or bring them into the process. So on the one hand, you get the sense that the unlikely voter is worth noting this election because they're not polled. And they are oftentimes the most vulnerable citizens, the ones who are most affected by elections. People, you know, whose families are serving in Iraq. So you mentioned Iraq. Iraq is definitely a common theme that you hear on the bus, and you run into a lot of reservists, and you know, so you get an interesting cross section of people. Some of whom are for, a lot of people, you know, directly affected by the war.
You said something that really stuck with me. You said people for whom daily life is triage. So talk to me about the stories, about the people that you met. What are some of the stories that have really stuck with you?
I sat next to a home care worker in Minnesota, a woman in her late 50s, and she works 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. Last year she took 3 days off. She's a single mom, and she's still $2,000 below the poverty line. Wow. I think the people who are bad off are really bad off, and the issue of our working class, people who are working hard for minimum wage, they are eking by, if barely, and so you run into a lot of it. I mean, I had another interesting experience with a reservist on my last trip, traveling across Kansas, who had gone to Iraq. He signed up actually for he was a reservist, signed up for the 2 weeks a year plan, said he was a self-described knucklehead, and he sort of described, you know, somebody had to do the job, and that people looked at him different when he came back. And so there obviously are mixed feelings, but a lot of people are angry about Iraq and are seeing their friends and loved ones struggling over there too.
Yeah, you're just talking about the struggles just of Americans in general, the different slices, especially of the socioeconomic levels out there. The book is called Greyhound Diaries. You also have a record with that. I know that you like to put art in its songwriting form, especially politicizing it in a way. So sing for us, would you? Just give us a little taste of what's on that record.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks, Betty. Spent the night in the Cheyenne, thinking about how the miles
marks on a man, 'cause I'm a long way from home. I learned to be alone. You gotta have patience with all these way stations.